Welcome to the IonaHoops.com podcast with your host, Guy Flatico.
Yo, what's up, Gale Nation? It's season 4, episode 28 of the IonaHoops.com podcast. Man, this little stretch is like the worst time to be a college hoops fan. All the recruiting's done. The non-conference schedule's not quite out yet, so we can't talk about that. So we're all just kind of sitting here waiting for something to get our juices going. Enter this podcast. Well, I hope so anyway. I mean, I think a lot of college hoops fans in general are tuning out right now. The portal buzzed along to the spring and everyone wants a break. But we don't take breaks here at IonHoops.com. Well, that's not true either. I took like a month off after the season ended, but given the way the tail end of the season went and followed by the mass exodus, who can blame me, right? Anyway, enough. So we don't have a ton of newsy items per se, and not much in the way of offers either. So we're going to bypass IOTAs and the offer roundup. However, we will have the return of the Iona State of the Union in this episode. And we'll also have the return of Brandon Goble. He's the man behind Verbal Commits and JUCO Advocate. He's bringing us some insights on some new Gaels who came to us by way of junior colleges. Brandon is one of the really big influencers on our sport out there. So always a joy to have him on. We're going to hear from him shortly, but we're going to start things off here with the Iona State of the Union. It's been a few episodes since I gave my own Iona State of the Union, and with recruiting news and scheduling news slowing down a bit, now is as good a time as any for its return. The State of the Union, I mean. Anyway, especially coming off last week's Zoom call with Tobin Anderson and Gaels Nation NIL Collective President Jim Oates, moderated by yours truly. If you missed the call, you can listen to the recordings by going to galesnation.com/videos. The call was just about an hour long, and Jim and Tobin answered all questions submitted by registrants about NIL and about the team and the upcoming season. You can hear the whole thing from beginning to end, right there on that link I gave you. But I thought I'd share some key takeaways and even a couple sound bites from the call, as a lot of good information came out of it. Let's start with the Gaels Nation Collective itself and where we are with it in relation to the rest of the MAC, because I know a lot of people have this question. But really, one of the key takeaways is that's not even the benchmark. Here's Jim and then Tobin on that topic.
All the intelligence that I have gathered, and unless someone's going to tell me different, we are the largest in MAC. I think money-wise, I don't know if we have, but we're not competing with the MAC really in the context of the NIL activities where it's trying to, we're somewhere in between that and the Big East that we're trying to compete or, with the other conferences. And so we've been reluctant to purely, benchmark ourselves against what the MAC schools are doing. We feel pretty good about that, but that's not where our real competition lies.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jim on that. Like, I think in the MAC, we're very fortunate. We're definitely upper tier, if not the top program NIL-wise in the MAC. But obviously, in recruiting, our competition is the A10 schools, the CA schools, the Fordhams, the Hofstra, the College of Charleston School, the great mid majors that are out there, and I think that's constantly going to be our competition, and we're trying to be one of the best mid major programs in the country, and that's who we're going against on a consistent basis. So I think we're in a good spot, but we can always do more.
Staying with NIL as it relates to our roster, one common theme, and perhaps the most common theme of the call, is the importance of player retention. I've got a string of clips from both Tobin and Jim on plans to keep guys in the program moving forward. Let's give them all a listen.
Out of the 13 guys on our roster, 10 of these guys could come back next year. So I think a big part of our success will be out of those 10 guys trying to retain, if we go 10 for 10, that would be probably like winning the lottery. So that's probably not going to be a possibility, but 8 for 10, 7 for 10, 9 for 10 would be huge. Not only because then we get a chance to grow with these guys and spend time with them and know them better, but also they get to develop in our program, know our system, know how we do things, and it will ensure a lot of success down the road.
We talked about multi-year contracts, and that's a double-edged sword because the player may end up not having the same value from a name, image, and likeness perspective next year as they do this year, and you're tied in with the money. So I think at this point, we're still more focused on the qualitative aspects of retention than trying to embark upon having multi-year contracts. And all, going back to the character of the individuals this year, last year we had a couple who were on the spectrum of being a mercenary, like it was very much about the money. This year that doesn't come across at all. They're here. You get the feeling that they're here for Iona, and they're appreciative of the fact that there's some NIL opportunity. I could feel that. And I don't know whether they were coached to talk to me like that, but that's certainly a difference than last year. There were two lines that were thrown at me over the course of towards the end of last season was, everything we did, again, we're getting beat by teams in the MAC with no NIL money. Why are we doing this? Was one reaction. And then I try and say, well, yeah, the Yankees don't always win the World Series either, even though they're the biggest payroll in baseball. But getting the right team, getting the right retention methods, winning would be help. As Coach said before. The other thing that people throw back at us is that, again, not throw back, but it's a legitimate thing, saying it's difficult to digest giving someone NIL money and them leaving. I mean, those are the two things that are tough to swallow. So retention.
Lastly, you all want to know what Tobin thinks about the team. Here's a couple clips from him on that. Side note, he hits on that retention theme yet again.
Yeah, things are going well. We're middle of July. We've had the whole team up here now for about 5 weeks, and I think we're off to a great start. I think I know people who are on here care deeply about our program. We'll be excited about the guys we brought in and the guys that are here. And I'll just say this: I left practice last night feeling as good about our team as I have in 4 years. And I've been at 3 jobs in those last 4 years, so I guess it encompasses a lot of places. But I definitely felt good about our team, about our guys. We did some community service last week. The guys jumped into that. We had camp all week. Our guys have been great at camp as far as helping out and meeting kids and meeting parents and doing that kind of thing. So I think first and foremost, we brought a great group of guys in who are good people, are great representatives of Iona University, and also can play and are competitive and are tough and are going to represent and play well for us this season. So I'm really excited about the team. I was talking to Matt this morning. We were on a Zoom and I'm just raving about these guys and what we brought in. We have the right guys in the program. I really do, and I feel like we're going to make some big moves this year. And like we talked about, and then 10 of those guys could come back next year. So I think to have success, sustained success at the mid-major level, you have to have retention. You have to have guys who come back, and so that's going to be the key. Like I think we can have a great year this year and do a lot of good things. And now to do it year after year, it's going to be a lot of it's retention and keeping these guys here. And I think when people see how these guys play for each other and play for Iona, they'll be excited about them.
So again, the full call is available on galesnation.com/videos. Give it a listen to learn more about the importance of NIL and player retention and hear more thoughts from Tobin on the team. And just a final reminder, July 29th, Monday, is the Gaels Nation Golf Outing. Still time to register for that. Hey, if you don't play, but you still want to come to the event, you can do the reception only option. That's what I did. I don't play golf. I'm awful at golf, but I also have a bad back, so it gave me an excuse to quit the game, at least at this point. So register to play, register for the reception, do whatever, but come and hang with Tobin, maybe have a drink with me as well. Hey, you never know. I get funny when I drink a lot. Anyway, hope to see you all next week at that event. And now let's switch gears and bring in our guest, Brandon Goble, the man behind Verbal Commits and JUCO Advocate. He's got such a wonderful eye for talent if you follow him on Twitter. And he does so much for kids to find them homes to play basketball. He's here now to share some thoughts on some of our new Gaels. Brandon Goble is the CEO of Player Advocate LLC and is behind the widely recognized brands JUCO Advocate and Verbal Commits. He's making his third appearance on the IronHoops.com podcast now, this time to talk to us about a couple of the new Gaels who made stops at junior colleges along the way. Brandon, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
And thanks for taking the time. I know you're always on the road, so I appreciate that. You finding some time for this little old podcast. First off, as I've noted, you're the man behind a couple of staples in the college hoops world in JUCO Advocate and Verbal Commits. and you're like one of the busiest guys out here, always on the road cranking away at something. Tell us what's going on with both of those realms these days.
Yeah, the verbal commit stuff has really taken off. Obviously, that's been around for a long time, and we've kind of taken it to another level in the recruiting space. Just trying to help more kids, help more coaches, bring new content and features and things to fans that use it. We get about 3 million unique users a year of the site, and so we're
That's wild.
constantly looking for new things to just keep people using it and growing the brand. And then yeah, JUCO advocate with the events and things. That's all cruising along, headed to Europe again this week to go do some more scouting and stuff. So yeah, just lots of irons in the fire.
Well, somehow, some way, you find the time to see thousands and thousands of players every year, and particularly given your role in hosting multiple exposure events for JUCOs and whatnot. So, who better to ask about some of the new guys that are coming into Iona? Because I know you've seen them. Let's start with Yafet Mundi. He's 6'8", Panola forward from Paris. He's the only Euro player in JUCO that averaged a double-double. Shooting 60% from the field. Originally committed to High Point, had prior offers from Western Kentucky, Arkansas State, Missouri State, SEMU, Kennesaw State, others. He's number 21 in the latest JUCO rankings. If you can give us some thoughts about Fet's game and how will it fit into Tobin Anderson's system in Iona, a lot of 5-out offense, constant pressure. From what you've seen, how do you think he's going to fit in?
Yeah, I mean he's kind of really what Tobin wants in a front court guy, in the sense that he just plays really, really hard. The things that we take for granted on being simple, like playing defense and rebounding, are not so simple. And he does those very, very well at a high level. He can switch all over the place. So in Tobin's defense, he's going to be a huge part of that. And then when we're talking about playing 5 out, like he's not really a big stretch the floor guy or something like that. But what he is just go down and do the dirty work. And so he can really, really move. He's a little undersized if he's playing up in, the Mountain West or something like that. But he's perfect for a big man to just go and be a real physical presence that doesn't have to have all of this, shooting and all that sort of thing to like really be an impactful guy.
So Iona brought in Clarence Rupert, who MAC fans know from his days at St. Peter's, also then excelled at Southern Illinois. Again, very similar size, very, very similar to what you're describing. Do you think that's almost like the perfect kid to put next to Yafet so he can learn from?
Yeah, 100%. I think honestly, having as many of those kinds of guys as you can is just an absolute bonus too. You don't have to really change things up when you have guys like that are similar to each other. I mean, sure, you want to be able to throw a curveball in there. But Tobin wins on executing, on his principles. And so being able to have multiple guys that can do those things is just a huge bonus for him.
So I've watched some tape of him. I've seen a couple of Iona practice clips already as well. It just seems like he could have gone higher. You think it's only because he's only 6'8" in your mind, or do you think, well, maybe he could have been a 4 at a higher level?
I think, it's just how recruiting has changed. Early on, guys jumped on him, and then, he decided on fit rather than level. I think he absolutely could have gone higher. I think he's a really great fit in the Missouri Valley. And I know he had some offers and interest at that level. But he went for fit. Like, he wants to go somewhere where he's going to play a lot. The things that he's good at are going to be appreciated, and the things that he needs to continue to develop and work on, he'll be allowed the grace to do that without being asked to, be a different player the minute that the minute that he gets there.
In this era of guys jumping after 1 year, it's important really to have an established connection between a fans and a player. I know it's one of Tobin's emphasis points for this offseason as we get into this year with the new Gaels. So with that in mind, why do you think Iona fans are going to love him?
I mean, he's a phenomenal human being, for one. He's a great kid, and that's been a huge part of Tobin's recruiting plan is that he wants to bring in a bunch of guys that are talented, that play the way he wants to play, but are also going to be people that the Iona fans are going to appreciate and enjoy, and check all those character boxes that are so important for Tobin, and Yafet does all of that. I've spent time around him as a J48 player. Obviously watched his game a lot, caught up with him out at Hutch, and so he's just a great kid, and because he plays hard and he rebounds, and he does all those things that people may not notice until they really look at the box score. I think fans are going to appreciate that.
All right. All right. Let's switch. You brought up Hutch. Let's switch to another new Gale by way of Hutch. Kernan Bundy, 6'3" shooting guard, averaged 10.5 points, 3.6 boards, 1.6 assists, 20 minutes a game, 52% overall from the floor, 38% from three, 82% from the line. Got interest from North Dakota State, Coastal Carolina, Western Michigan. 2 years left. Can you give us a little scout on him and how his game will translate to the MAC level?
Yeah, he's just like that perfect support guard that can play multiple positions, can make a shot from just about anywhere. You need a guy to come in and bang a three. You can do that. You need him to make the right pass, the right choice in a play. He can do that. He's kind of that catch-all guard with good size that's played at a high level. Those that aren't super familiar with junior college, he played at Hutch, which is a historic program, lots of national championships, and at a level in the Jayhawk conference that would rival some Division I leagues. And so his success there is going to be something that translates pretty quickly into the MAC.
So, yeah, like you said, he comes from an elite JUCO. He put up really solid numbers there. Watching his clips, he does, like you said, does a little bit of everything, but something he brings too that I kind of like. He's got a little swagger to his game, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he is out there every play trying to win every play, and when he wins, he lets you know.
All right, and maybe that's the answer to this next question I'm going to ask. But why do you think Iona fans are going to love his game?
Yeah, no, they're gonna love that dude coming in there and having that swagger. He's gonna be the one that's getting the crowd hyped up. He's gonna be the one that when someone needs a good staring down on the other team, he's gonna be the one giving it, and he doesn't really care how big they are. So just having kind of that puff your chest out and you're not gonna mess with this mentality is something that every team needs, and it needs to be in the right way, and he does it the right way.
Okay. All right. And lastly, I want to get your take on a high impact guy who made a JUCO stop before landing in Northern Colorado. And that's Dejor Reeves. He was at Trinidad State College in Colorado before making the jump to the Big Sky. At Trinidad, he averaged 23.5 points per game, second team All-American at that level. And then he lands at Northern Colorado, put up 15 a game there. Your thoughts on his game?
Yeah, I mean, if DeJour's not in the final mix at the end of the year for, top 3 or 4 players to win MAC Player of the Year, I'll honestly be shocked. I think, he's always been a bucket, but the other things that he's added to his game, make him more of a complete player. And we're talking about Kernan with, him trying to win every play. That's the way DeJour is. I mean, he leads by example. He's a phenomenal kid, great to be around, tough as all get out. But man, when you put the ball in his hands, like exciting things happen. And, Iona has had a lot of success, especially recently, with those kind of just dominant lead guards. And they don't have to be, massive physical presences to be able to accomplish that. And DeJour really kind of fits in that mold of those guards that Patino had success with, that Cluse had success with. This is just an extension of those. And he comes in with a ton of experience. A Trinidad team that he led to the Hutch tournament 2 years in a row, which is, just says a lot, about what he's capable of. And then, immediately translating it to the next level.
What elements would you say that you, as somebody who again saw him at Trinidad, what has he added to his game over that time? And are you shocked that he made the kind of jump that he made since being at Trinidad?
I think it's just really for guys like him about decision making. There's a lot of players that have his kind of talent that go into takeover mode, and in junior college they're able to do that, not because there's less talent, but because there's sometimes a little less structure. So then when you come out of junior college, some guys take a little bit of time to adapt to that structure. And he was able to do that fairly quickly. And so, making the right decisions, the right reads, the right plays, adding that rather than just being a ball dominant, hey, give me the rock and I'm going to go get stuff done guy, which, he obviously can still do that. But then he's able to see the floor more clearly. He's able to involve more people in the offense. And so even though he's still putting up big numbers, he's having an even greater impact on the overall offense.
Okay. And I'll ask you the same question about the other two. I asked you about the other two guys. Why are Ion fans going to love him?
Well, kind of like the other guys, great kid. Um, just a real pleasure to be around. And I mean, he's lightning in a bottle. He kind of honestly that when I was helping him with his recruiting and stuff out of junior college, I said reminded me a lot of a player named John Gillen, that, for those that don't know, played at Little Rock. This was back when transferring was a lot more complicated, right? So went to Little Rock, then he went to Colorado State, was a premier guard for Colorado State under Larry Eustace, and then finished up as a grad transfer at Syracuse. And same thing, lightning in a bottle. What do we need? Do we need somebody to get downhill and get to the rim, get fouled and get a bucket? Do we need him to make a deep three? Do we need him to make the right pass? It doesn't matter what it is. And it also didn't matter that it wasn't coming from somebody that's a 6'4" guard. And so, that kind of smaller size guard that just has that toughness and ability to get whatever needs done is the kind of guy that fans are just going to love.
Yeah. So, and this all is going to give a chance for you to tie all this up with a bow here. In conversations with Tobin this offseason, I know a focal point for his recruiting efforts, the staff's recruiting efforts this year was just, again, having to replace the entire roster, was to bring in just tougher guys, dogs who just have high basketball IQs as well and are just high character kind of guys. It seems like all three of these guys fit that bill. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Recruiting has gotten to a point where things are at, especially if you're going to recruit the junior colleges, you don't have to compromise a lot. There are so many players available for a team like Iona, more so really than ever because, with the portal and stuff like that, there's a lot of these guys that are, there's just a lot of kids not even getting signed out of the portal. There's not enough spots.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot more kids having to go junior college that are in that mid-major, high impact guy mold. And so, an Iona can go and get those guys where in the past they might have been fighting the high majors for a few of those guys,
Yeah.
and then you get the transfers like a De Jour who is unique in that De Jour's, 15 points a game. If he'd have waited a little bit longer, he'd have had a bazillion different options. But for him, the thing that was most important was I want to be in a position where I'm going to be the guy, I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to be the one that people lean on because I have that in me to take on that role. And obviously Iona's history, Tobin's history, and his ability to win, all that sort of stuff, and of course the personality and how those mesh and all that sort of thing. Coach Wallace did an incredible job recruiting him too. The whole staff did. And so, I think there was so much about it that made total sense. And he's a little bit of a rare bird that it was like, hey, the things that matter to me most are the important things, and unfortunately we just kind of can't say that anymore. There's a lot of things like, we all have to determine what's important and what's not. And some things are more important to other guys than others, but the things that have historically been most important are still the most important to De Jour. And so he made that choice based off of those. And I think at the end of the day, both him and Iona are going to greatly benefit from that.
Speaking, and you mentioned Iona's long history. Iona, going back as far as I can remember into the 90s, even the 80s, Iona's always embraced recruiting the JUCO level. And so you're the best person to ask this question to. Now that in this era of the portal and even in NIL, how has that impacted the JUCO recruiting in your eyes? Has it changed perceptions at all?
Yeah, it's a little different. So, 5 years ago, there might have been 20 guys that went high major from junior college. Last year, it was 4. And so I think a lot of that has to do with, it's easier to qualify than it used to be. The truly high major guys are not kind of slipping into JUCO. There's still obviously guys that do, or ones that develop into high major guys, but even some of the high major guys are now just being recruited at the mid-major level because of the portal. And so what I think it has done is it's created these opportunities where you're going to see a lot more high impact JUCO guys, because I think they're going to be a lot more guys going to the right level right off the bat. And yeah, and then, they may play their way up, right? Like De Jure did.
Yep.
But they're going to go to a level where they can just get things done right away. And all of that is only going to benefit the perception of JUCO. It's going to benefit JUCO recruiting in the long run here. And, it's oddly enough, I think at the end of the day, junior college is actually going to grow and benefit from where things are headed right now. Because, kids coming out of high school, they got to go somewhere because they're not getting recruited to the Division Ones. So you're going to have a lot of qualifiers, a lot of high character, good academic, really good player kids that are choosing junior college, where in the past they kind of either turned their nose up at it or just skipped it and went on, straight to Division One. They're going to need to go somewhere, and junior colleges are going to be sitting there with their arms open waiting for them.
That's awesome. Well, Brandon, I know you're extremely busy. You're again about to go to Europe again. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here today to give us these scouts on these guys. I hope Iona fans realize the impact you have had on college hoops in general and what you've done in finding opportunities for so many kids worldwide. So I appreciate you, and I hope Iona fans do as well. And again, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.
All right. Take care. Thanks again to Brandon Goble for stopping by the podcast. I hope everyone learned a lot in this episode. We covered a lot of ground between the new players and matters relating to NIL. You can always reach out to me with questions on any Iona topic as we gear up for the new season. Until next time, go Gaels.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the IonaHoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of IonaHoops.com and its publisher Guy Filotico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filotico, IonaHoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona University Athletics or the university itself. Thank you for supporting IonaHoops.com.